Hey team, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to an arsenal building video. This was one of the most popular videos that I did last year, so this is going to be an annual thing. Once a year, I'm going to put all the balls from a particular brand on a chart and give you a comparison of how they stack up for one another, and we're going to help you build a 6-ball arsenal. We picked 6 balls because it's really easy to do 2 3-ball totes, and if your league is complete house shot China, you can put your favorite 3 in one 3-ball tote and drag it in and out with you. And you have an expanded 6-ball arsenal for tournaments and regional competitions if you so choose. That works out really nicely because the 2 3-ball totes, they used to fly free on Southwest, but RIP Southwest, they're not going to be doing that for us anymore. So I will be, shopping around to see where I fly from now on. But bitterness aside, we're going to take a look at Hammer's arsenal building, and we're going to do it like this. I'm going to pop up this chart for you guys. It is a chart that is sorted by the amount of oil volume that the balls can handle on the y-axis from top to bottom, and the sharpness or smoothness of the responsive friction of the bowling balls on the x-axis from left to right. So what we're going to do in a 6-ball arsenal is we're simply going to have 2 of each of the following category. We're going to look for 2 in the heavy oil category, 2 in the medium oil category, and 2 in the light oil category. And when you're looking for bowling balls in each of those 3 categories, you're going to want to pick one from the smoother side of the chart and one from the sharper side of the chart. So in other words, with a complete 6-ball arsenal, you should have a sharp and a smooth ball in the heavy oil category, and so on down the line to build 6. Okay, now we're going to pop up Hammer's chart and a number of disclaimers before we jump into this in great detail. Number 1, this is just my personal opinion. This doesn't reflect Hammer's marketing or their position on things. This is just my informed opinion based on watching the balls go down the lane in testing and seeing their intent in the product lineup. Number 2, obviously a 2D chart with only 2 axes does not convey every nuance of ball motion. I put them loosely where they belong. I didn't spend time nudging them around to the nth degree to make sure that they were perfectly centered exactly where they need to be, so they're just loosely in the categories that they represent. And Hammer does have a lot of bowling balls, so there is just a little bit of overlap, but again, 2D chart, the nuances of ball motion are not necessarily captured. So if you have any questions about how one product compares to another, feel free to jump in the comments below and ask any questions that you may have. And finally, these are not the current product lineup balls. These in this chart right here are all of the balls from the last year, from July Bowl, Expo, all the way up to the new releases, not including the new releases so far, and we'll pop the new releases on the chart in just a second. So what we're looking at first of all is all of the balls from Hammer from the last year. And Hammer is easily one of the most well-rounded brands. Obviously this brand is among the brand that has the most releases of all of the brands in the lineup, and that is because it is the most popular brand out of the 7 brands of Brunswick. So already a really well-rounded lineup. Some of the highlights include the very sharp medium oil Black Widow, which of course has high differential, high intermediate differential, slightly smoother and earlier revving, but still very sharp special effect. That one is actually a polished solid, which makes it unique, and some strong firepower out of the Pure Envy at the top of the arsenal, and a relatively sharp option in the Anger, which is a very, very high RG reactive ball. Effectively plays in about as high RG range as you want to go for a very late revving response to friction. So that one definitely needs friction to get started, but once it does get started, it's among the most angular symmetrical balls that you will find out. So those are just a couple of the few key highlights from the last year. Of course, you could highlight every ball on this one because there's a lot of bangers, and that is among the reasons that Hammer is among the most popular brands. But what we're going to do right now is show you some of the new entries, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the 2 July 2024 Expo balls. That was the Hazmat Solid and the Scorpion Strike. We'll sunset those on our old chart, and we'll bring up the new balls. That is the Anger Solid and the very bright Bubblegum Vibe. Now, these cores have been around, so I'm not going to spend a a great amount of detail discussing them. But basically what you've got in the Anger Solid is the same thing that you had in the original Anger. That was a modified version of the infamous core. Some of you might remember that was a sanded solid with a very high RG and even higher total differential in that original infamous. We actually raised the RG and dropped the differential by changing the inner body density in this core, and what you're left with is a ball that's not quite so erratic, floats a little better because of the even higher RG, and is a little less total flare potential. Pairs a little bit better with our newer cover stock technology, which glues to the back of the lane just a little better. So all told, this Anger, even though it's a little less flare potential than the original infamous, it is a lot more secure and a lot more predictable motion for you. And I don't mean that it's smooth overall front to back. That's not what I meant by predictable. I just meant that shot over shot, it's a little more easy to read and understand than that original infamous was. You'll notice that it's pretty high up on the chart for medium heavy oil conditions, and it fits squarely in the middle of the arsenal from left to right in terms of shape. I did mention that the original Anger was one of the sharpest symmetrical balls that any of our brands currently have, and this one, being sanded with a solid cover stock, is built to handle a lot more oil. And even though it is sanded solid, it does actually shape quite well. That high RG pushes it quite far down the lane. The high 049 total differential gives it plenty of flare potential at the back of the lane to change direction. So this one is squarely in the middle, doesn't flip, isn't smooth and blendy, but it gets down the lane and it gives what I call a hard arc at the back of the lane. And that's going to be great for versatility. If you're a lower speed or higher rev player that struggles to get solids through the front part of the lane, this 256 RG is going to be golden for aiding you in that and still getting you that same ball motion just a little further down the lane with a little more punch at the back. And the Bubblegum Vibe is going to be a home run right out of the gate. On top of the shuffle peel, the pink that everyone has been wowed by, and of course this little picture doesn't do it justice. This thing is bright in person. But aside from the shuffle peel, this one has been rolling well too. This one is, to me, even though it's a pearlized cover stock, I'm going to call it a hybrid, and I don't mean cover stock type. I mean, this is kind of ball motion that falls right in between the Arctic Vibe and the previous Ocean Vibe. The Ocean Vibe was the last pearl in the Vibe series, but this one with the HK22 cover base is certainly a lot more change of direction, just a lot more stick and glue at the back of the lane. So this one is going to be equal length to the Ocean Vibe, maybe even a pinch cleaner with the HK22 cover base, but when it sees friction, it wants to get off of it a lot harder, change more direction. So in terms of total boards, more than Ocean Vibe, kind of an Ocean Vibe on steroids, but I said it's kind of in between the two, or a hybrid of the two, between the Ocean and the Arctic, because this one is going to cover a pretty similar amount of total boards to the Arctic Vibe, but it's going to do it in a much longer, stronger change of direction motion shape, whereas the Arctic may be built to handle just a little more oil volume with a little earlier read, a little more secure down lane motion, and just a little smoother down lane motion. This Bubblegum Vibe is going to be a similar total hook, gets you in the similar window. It's just going to get quite a bit further down lane and make its change of direction quite a bit later off the back of the lane, being the pearlized version of the CT Max cover stock. And because of that, it's going to be a little more usable on a little more burnt conditions or when there's more developed friction. And I will caution you that this one does need just a little bit of developed friction before it's at its best. If you're bowling on wood lanes or very torn up, old, beaten up synthetic panels, then you might find some utility as a higher rev player on fresh conditions, house shots, things of that nature. But for the most part, this is going to be a transition ball for when you have mid lane friction to throw it into. That's where that one's going to be at its best. So in terms of where these fit into an arsenal, you can use your Anger. It can be a strong sharp option, or it can be a strong smooth option depending on the balls that you already have in your arsenal around it. So take a look at the hammer balls on the chart and decide if you would want to slot the Anger to the right or to the left, sharper or smoother than some of the heavy oil balls that you've got. And for the Vibe, that fits very squarely in the light oil sharp category of things. Although if you're a high rev player, I think it can kind of cheat its way into the medium oil category of things. And if you want to blend the motion to make it a truer, more medium oil sharp ball, but you don't like super sharp options, then adding a little surface to this Arctic Vibe for earlier traction and control could slot it more squarely in the medium sharp category of ball motion in your 6-ball arsenal. That's all the information I have on the new Anger Solid, the new Bubblegum Vibe, and how they fit relative to all of the current products in the Hammer lineup. I said current products. These are all the products that were out within the last year in the Hammer brand. Of course, there are some staples, your purple hammers, your new blues, and maybe even a Widow or two going back a few releases that were over a year old, still in the catalog. So this isn't every ball in the Hammer lineup, but it is every ball within the last year in the Hammer lineup. Hopefully this gives you a good gauge of how the two new ones fit relative to them and gives you an idea of how to build your arsenal around it. Now, we're not asking you to buy every single Hammer release as they come out. We're not asking you to buy like 12 bowling balls a year. We understand that's not necessary, or is it budget friendly? But what we want to do is give you the tools to make educated decisions so that when you do buy a Hammer ball, it slots in your arsenal where you want it and you get what you're expecting out of that product. So hopefully this video gives you a little more clarity about how all the products are currently stacking up. And of course, I'm always available for questions. Feel free to drop a comment in my comment section below. I'm happy to answer them when I have the time. And of course, if you found this content helpful, if you enjoyed that and you're looking for content from the previous Hammer releases, I have previous ball information available on my YouTube page. I have long form content on the new core releases on the videos tab, and on the shorts tab I do quick 1-minute reviews if you're looking for some quick information, 1-minute reviews on the balls that were not new cores. So make sure you check out my YouTube and Facebook page at Bowling Buckosh, give a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video where we're detailing the current DV8 arsenal and the new balls for DV8 for Bowl Expo. See you then.